everyone. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto channel. I have a special guest with me, Jeremy Hogan, who's a partner at Hogan Hogan, a law firm based out of Florida. Jeremy, it's a pleasure to be chatting with you today.
Nice to meet you on the video chat here, and thanks for having me. I much appreciate it, Tony.
Jeremy, I'm a big fan of your content on YouTube. You make legal jargon so entertaining, and and I see you get a lot of views around your content with, regarding Ripple and XRP, and we're going to talk a lot about that. But let's start with your background. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Sure. So I was born up in Ohio, but I kind of grew up on the small island of Guam out in the Pacific. We are a U.S. territory, kind of like Puerto Rico. From there, I lived in Japan a couple of years. I did a stint in Hawaii, went to law school in California where I met my wife, and then I pulled her out of California. We moved to Florida, and here we are 15 years later. Yeah.
Wow. So you lived some very interesting areas of the planet, Guam, and then you're in Hawaii. Wow. Very cool. So how did you, or when did you decide to become a lawyer and get into law?
So I'm a second generation lawyer. My father is a lawyer. He was in one of my videos. And after college, I was a teacher for 4 years. And I think my fourth year of teaching, I'll never forget, I was still living with my mom. I was making $23,000 a year. And I just kind of decided I had had enough. But really the impetus was I saw that, people kind of went to my dad and for problems, and he was able to help them, whether it was a DUI or this or that. So, the impetus really was to be in a position where I could help people more. And I think a lot of lawyers actually start off that way. And then sometimes they lose their way along the lines and they become the people that you hate. But most lawyers, generally speaking, go to law school because they want to help and make a difference. And that's kind of where I was coming from.
So I have to ask, and this is definitely off the cuff because I'm a big Breaking Bad fan and Better Call Saul fan. Have you watched Better Call Saul at all?
I have, but I couldn't make it. Lawyer movies are kind of ruined for you. Lawyer, they really are. I'm glad there's not that many anymore. I think they were really more popular like 10 or 20 years ago. But yeah, when you see the lawyer movies and the lawyer TV shows, for me, they're just ruin it. So I just can't get into them.
Sure, that totally makes sense. And I know movies and TV shows tend to, they a bit of hyperbole, a bit of emphasizing things a bit too much than they really are in the reality of the world.
The biggest problem with lawyer TV shows and is how fast you think these things go, because in a movie, even in 90 minutes, you can only have like 5-minute courtroom scenes. So people think that closing statements take 2 or 3 minutes. It's Matthew McConaughey up there like making his tears going down as he's defending his client. And that's just not the way it is. I mean, closing arguments are 1 or 2 hours long. And these cases take forever to get to trial. And most people think that you file a lawsuit and then the next month you're in front of the judge arguing your case. And the last jury trial I had took about 3 years to get there. So these cases take a long time. And that's, I think, the problem with the lawyer stuff on TV is people, they don't understand how complicated, how much work is involved, and how long it takes any one case.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask, when was your first encounter? When did you first discover cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, XRP, whatever it may be? And what was your aha moment? Because clearly you're an XRP holder, and maybe you can tell us what else you hold in your portfolio.
Sure. So I'm kind of a late bloomer. I didn't really give it much thought. I was busy with raising kids and my law practice. The first thing that sticks out in my mind is back in 2016, 17, when a couple guys, friends of mine, were talking about mining Bitcoin. And I was like, mining what? What are you talking about? And so I kind of looked into it for them a little bit. And then right around that 2017 time period, we started to have some clients calling in, asking some questions, this issue and that issue about, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin especially. And that's when it kind of really got on my radar. But I really didn't get into it till I would say 2019. When honestly, I just had some free time, and I just thought my background really is in insurance, whether it's home insurance, auto insurance, insurance. And I just kind of thought, wow, look at this. You can have an automated insurance contract that automatically pays out if you ever make a claim. And first off, I thought, wow, that's going to put me out of business if that actually happens, because I make my living off of when insurance companies don't do the right thing, right?
Sure.
So that's really my first exposure and my first research was into Ethereum, because I was like, wow, a smart contract. You take out the middleman, you have a claim, da da da, this happens, and it's pretty much automatic and it can't be changed. And I thought that was super interesting. So that's really what I was doing. So I bought Ethereum maybe a year or two ago, because I just thought it was an extremely exciting area of law, really, that could change everything. And then I just kind of sat on it. That's really all I still own. And then after the lawsuit against XRP, and I guess it was in December and early January, I decided to make a video about it and got a lot of reaction. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of, need for people to know what's going on in this lawsuit. So I started making videos. That's when I started looking into XRP. It was early January. And I think by late January, I made a purchase. So I'm a holder. I'm not a big holder. Like I told you before we went on air here, if it goes to zero tomorrow, I won't lose any sleep. But I was really excited about what they're trying to do with it, and I never even thought about it until January. So that's kind of my history. I'm not a big crypto holder. I don't have, I own more stock than I do cryptocurrencies. But so my only holding right now are Ethereum and XRP. That's it.
Got it. Well, I'm certainly glad you decided to make content around XRP and Ripple, because it's so timely with all of the situations at hand. I want to get your view and your take on this whole situation, given your background as a lawyer. Where do you see things potentially ending here, ideally, in your mind? Sure.
So, well, let me start off with this. So when I first was looking into what's going to happen, because that was the question everyone had, right? What's going to happen here to this lawsuit? I looked at the past lawsuit, which was the Kick Interactive case, right? That happened last year, and Kick Interactive lost. And so I came at it from a position of, people are asking me what's going to happen here. So I came at it from a position of, what's the worst case scenario? So I looked at the Kick Interactive case, because that really is Ripple's, XRP's worst case scenario. They lost 100% Kick Interactive. Basically, it was deemed a security, or as much as the law allows that to happen. So I looked at the case, I looked at the judgment, and here's what it was. They had to pay a fine, and it turned out to be about 10%, I think, of the money they had raised in their ICO. So it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like a fine that would put you out of business, right? And then the second thing was, they had to agree to comply with the SEC securities laws, which basically means that when they would release any of the, I think it's the KIN token, they would have to file what's called a Regulation D form, and they could only sell to accredited investors. So when I looked at that, and I say, let's apply that to the Ripple situation. Is that something that people what would happen if that happens? And I kind of came to the conclusion, after talking to other people who knew more about XRP than I did, that it's not, it's the worst case scenario is not a death blow for XRP. It would be a blow for Ripple and for XRP and for holders of XRP, but it's not something that takes the value of it to nothing. And in fact, the KIN token is still trading and actually doing pretty good, considering, even what it was back there during the lawsuit. So that's the first thing I say to people is, it's the worst case scenario that I can see from past cases is not that horrible. Now, the most likely scenario is a settlement of some sort. 95% of cases settle at some point in time. Now, this is a big case, so that might skew the chances of this moving forward a little bit more. You know what I mean? Smaller cases and less important cases tend to settle a lot easier than bigger cases. But 95% of cases settle in general. And I think that this will also. When or how, I don't know. And if it doesn't settle, it's going to be a summary judgment. There'll be a decision by the judge as far as the Ripple's part of it. And I think that I can't tell you they're going to win or lose or what's going to happen there. But sure. All I could tell you is I think that the most likely scenario here is a settlement.
Got it. And do you foresee possibly being a settlement of what took place between the years of 2012 to maybe 2015? It was the wild, wild west days of crypto. No, there was no regulations. The SEC didn't come out and say anything. But now, now it's just my opinion, and I know many of the XRP holders feel this way. It is not a security now, but maybe back then, the way it was issued certainly it fall under securities or sale of unregulated securities, or whatever you want to call it. What do you think about that? Would it be a settlement for those respective years?
Sure. So I think you have to look at it, and this has been kind of something I've been talking about, and I've been hearing from other lawyers that I've talked to in general, because I don't really know the ins and outs of all the offerings and all the sales that Ripple did in the early years. Definitely, I think it's more problematic the further back you go, right? As far as the recent sales, you have the judge a couple of days ago saying that her understanding is that the sales, that XRP has a value as a currency and utility. And of course, she's talking about now. So the nice thing is you see the judge kind of buying into half of Ripple's argument already, that it has utility, that it has value as a currency as well. So that's not the whole package. That doesn't mean, oh, you're going to win, but you're almost like halfway there. So taking that into account, I think that Ripple is looking really strong as far as current sales and future sales. Now, when you go back to 2015, I think just by definition, you're almost looking less strong the further you go back. So I think definitely the general consensus, and something that I would probably agree with, is that current sales and future sales are probably, and I gotta say probably, because we never know. I mean, we're still early in litigation, but probably are not sales of securities. Now, if you go back to 2013, 14, 15, I don't know when the cutoff would be. Now you have more of a problem. So the end result of that would be Ripple would be fined for those sales. It's called disgorgement in the SEC cases. Disgorgement means you have to give up your profits. But I think as far as the more recent sales, I think from what I'm seeing and what I've been talking to people about, those are probably maybe going to be deemed okay.
Got it. And you pulled out a nugget out of the recent hearing. It was covered on a few crypto blogs, and you made a video about it, where the SEC lawyers said it's only illegal if Ripple sells XRP, but individuals or exchanges or market makers doing that, not a problem. What are your thoughts around that? So it's essentially saying the token is not an issue. It's just anything Ripple does with the token almost is the issue.
Yeah, I know that got a lot of play on Twitter, especially. So let me explain that a little bit better. So here's the general picture. So let's just take Coinbase, for example. Coinbase was selling and allowing sales and trades of XRP, right, until the lawsuit hit. And then a couple of weeks later, it said, okay, we're going to have to delist it. What happened was Coinbase went to their lawyers. These are regulatory lawyers, probably at a big law firm. And these guys make a lot more money than I do. So, and they said, hey, lawyers, this happened. There's a lawsuit now. What should we do? And so the lawyers came out with an opinion. They sent it over to Coinbase. They said, you know, with this lawsuit in play, we advise you probably need to delist it. Now, why do they do that? They do that because from the lawyer standpoint, because I've written these letters before, not on SEC topics, not on securities topics, but different topics. From the lawyer standpoint, you have to understand that the risk reward for them is heavily skewed towards telling people not to do something. Because think if you're the lawyer, if you tell Coinbase, no, it's probably okay, go ahead, keep selling XRP. And then they get sued by the SEC. You've just, you know, you're calling your malpractice carrier, you lost the account, you get fired from your job. I mean, it's horrible. Now, if you tell them don't sell it and they lose a little money because of that, and it turns out XRP is not a security, well, all right, well, I was just erring on the side of caution. You keep your account, you don't have to call your malpractice carrier, right? So you have to understand that these regulatory lawyers that are giving opinions to these exchanges are erring on the side of caution because it protects them, right? So I think that's the first thing you have to understand. Now, the second thing is that the SEC lawyer at the hearing said that only Ripple and its affiliates sold XRP illegally. Now, that's only half of the equation, okay? Because that would kind of cover individual interactions. So individual sales. I sell to you, Tony. Tony, you sell XRP to me, right? That's not sale of a security. Now, in theory, then, if Coinbase was allowed to just facilitate that exchange, kind of like eBay, then they would not also be facilitating an exchange that would subject them to regulation by the SEC. But that's only half of the equation. And I think people kind of took that as the full equation. But here's the thing. I think the other side of that equation could be met as well at this point, because you remember when Attorney Deaton filed his writ of mandamus, I think the SEC responded. And in the response, they said, look, this writ of mandamus should be dismissed because it's premature, because there's been no legal determination yet that XRP is a security. And that's true. There hasn't been any legal. I mean, the SEC has said it, but the SEC isn't the final harbinger of whether XRP is a security or not. It's the courts, right? So that's the second part of the equation, right? So now you have the two parts of the equation floating out there in the ether somewhere, saying basically that this exchanges should be able to sell, because either you're facilitating exchanges between people, or even if you are having to hold, because it's not that simple, right? You have to hold excess, and what if someone comes and they don't have anything in exchange and they're just wanting to use US dollars, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not that simple, but that's the second part of the equation I think is covered. So my position is, and my thoughts on it were, now's the time I think that the exchanges need to kind of take a look at this again, look at the record that's been built in the cases, look at what the SEC has said on the record, and maybe take another look at whether they really needed to delist XRP.
Got it. And that completely makes sense. And I appreciate you highlighting that. And I'm hoping the different exchanges in the US at least will start revisiting this, and hopefully we get a relisting soon on Coinbase and the others.
One other thing I'd like to point out too is, the lawsuit at this point, I think, has become a little bit of a red herring. Not so much a red herring, but if XRP is a security, then I have bad news for the whole crypto world, because almost everything is a security, every cryptocurrency, all the way down to Ethereum. And I don't care what Mr. Hinman said a couple of years ago. Apparently that doesn't bind the SEC in any way. So if Ripple loses this and XRP is deemed a security, then what isn't a security? Maybe Bitcoin. So if Coinbase is really worried about selling XRP, well, then they better get to the lawyers and be worried about selling Filecoin and Litecoin and all the other coins too, because nothing's safe. At that point, nothing becomes safe, and you could be sued for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've personally talked a lot about that. The SEC is not going to stop at Ripple. They're going to go down the whole coin market capitalists. I spoke to Hester Peirce on this, and she talked about that. They have their team of people, and they're going to get to it eventually. So Cardano, Ethereum, the other ones you mentioned, it's going to happen. So I think we need Ripple to be in a good position coming out of this lawsuit, and for the market itself to move forward.
Right. That's a good point, Tony, because, in America, you have, double jeopardy. So you can only be sued for something once. So if XRP can come out of this on the other side alive, and Ripple comes out on the other side alive, SEC doesn't get another bite at it. They can't sue them again for the same thing. So you're going to have Ripple XRP have made it past the lawsuit and they're still alive. Well, now all you've got are the other coins, and we'll see if they make it out alive. But that's unfortunately where things are at right now.
Right. What do you think about Gary Gensler? Obviously, very well versed and knowledgeable about crypto. The guy who's teaching it at MIT, and he's spoken about Ripple and XRP, kind of ad hoc or off the cuff a bit, not really in depth. What do you think about him? Could he come in and potentially throw this out? Do you think that's likely?
I've seen that bandied about. I'll tell you what, I've been in good positions in lawsuits, and I've been in bad positions. I've had a case, this was just 2 or 3 years ago, I won't mention the case, but I had a case where I realized about a year into it that I was going to lose. I mean, no doubt about it, I was going to lose, right? But you never just call the other side or file a dismissal of a lawsuit. If I know I'm going to lose a case and you're the other attorney, Tony, here's what I do. I pick up the phone, I say, hey, Tony, I really think we need to get this case resolved. What do you think? Right? So if Gary Gensler comes in and decides this case needs to go away, my instinct is that there won't be a dismissal or something like that. There'll be a settlement with very, very favorable terms for Ripple.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah, that seems like the more likely outcome. And there is some pressure coming now publicly, given the publicity that this lawsuit is getting, and there's articles being written on Forbes, and everybody's weighing in on it, Financial Times. And then I see, Congressman Warren Davidson, Darren Soto, and a bunch of other folks are putting out bills that would like the Token Taxonomy Act that would put the SEC in their respective place, the CFTC, and so on and so forth. I'm hoping that pressure and all these things coupled together will help for a fast settlement, something that rules in Ripple's favor and the rest of the crypto market as well.
Yeah, I think that Token Taxonomy Act would be wonderful if it passes. You can't make something criminal retroactively, but you can change a favorable law retroactively. In other words, if the Token Taxonomy Act passes, they could apply it retroactively to, for say, Ripple's situation, to basically make what Ripple did not illegal anymore. So that's possible. But I've talked about this a lot, and it's, people are looking to the courts right now, but this is not really a court thing. This is a legislative thing. The Congress needs to act and do something, because the SEC can't. The SEC is, Hester Pierce told you probably, the SEC's job is to enforce these laws. I mean, that's what they're hired to do. That's what they have to do. And until the laws are changed, the SEC's hands are tied. Now, they do have some wiggle room in there, right, as to what they're going to do. And I don't like kind of how they're, you could argue that they're choosing the winners and losers in this game. So I don't like that fact, but it really is it's a Congress thing. It's not a court thing.
That's a great point. Yeah, Congress needs to act, and hopefully that Token Taxonomy Act can get passed soon, or make its way through. And there's some pressure from, I don't know, different agencies, the public outcry, or folks speaking about it.
If you want to do something, you reach out to your congressperson. It sounds kind of trope and boring, but really that's what you do, and that's how you enact change. The other thing you do is you give money, and I know the Blockchain Association is basically the blockchain lobby group, is making some strides. They're getting some meetings with, I think, Vice President Harris, is it? I think they met with her already. I'm not sure, but anyway, those type of things really need to get done. And I was surprised when I looked into it how little lobbying the crypto industry did. They really don't spend a lot of money, considering how much money is in the industry. So I think that's really something that needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. I have talked about that on my channel a lot, where unfortunately, the way our political system works, campaign donations, money move things, and we have to lobby as a crypto industry to get things in our favor. Got to play by the game here. What are your thoughts on Brad and Chris and their situation outside of just Ripple? How do you see that ending for them?
So I think that the SEC made a mistake in bringing the action against the individuals. First off, it's the first time that's ever happened outside of fraud allegations. So there's no allegation of any fraud here. And actually, I think what Ripple was doing and what Brad and Chris were doing was very open and obvious. I mean, they weren't trying to hide anything, right? Everyone knew exactly what was kind of going on here. So the reason why I think that is, one, it kind of reeks of overreaching a little bit, and two, because Brad and Chris had to have knowledge of what they were doing was wrong, the SEC exposes themselves to all different sorts of discovery requests from Ripple, Brad, and Chris as to because there's the knowledge requirement. Then Brad and Chris get to go in and ask the SEC, well, what did you think about XRP in 2019? What were your memos and internal emails about XRP in 2018? And if there wasn't any decisiveness in those emails, well, now you've made the SEC look kind of bad, because you have all these emails going back and forth, say, well, we haven't made a determination of XRP yet. Is it a security? Is it not? Well, if you hadn't made a determination in 2018, why are you suing Ripple in 2020? And it opens them up to all that kind of discovery stuff. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now in the litigation. Ripple's going after them hot and heavy on all those documents and emails about Ethereum and why it wasn't and if Brad and Chris were in the lawsuit, I think a lot of that goes away. I don't think Ripple can get some of that stuff, except for Brad and Chris being in the lawsuit. Now, why would the SEC have sued Brad and Chris? That I'm just guessing here, but in my experience, you bring in a Brad and Chris because it puts a lot of pressure on Ripple to get this resolved favorably to the SEC. And I think there was just a lot of money involved in their sales of XRP. And part of what the SEC always wants to do is disgorge profits. They want to take away the money you made by breaking the law. But at the end of the day, I think in hindsight, I think they'll look back on it and say, it was a mistake. As far as the pressure part, you have to understand that, being sued by the federal government is not fun. Very stressful. If you could imagine, the federal prosecutor knocking on your door, handing you a lawsuit, you've been sued by the federal government, and we, in theory, could take everything you own, and we could take it forever from you. It's very stressful, and so there's always that at play too. So that might be why they did it. It might be just because they want to disgorge those profits, but we may never know, really.
Sure. And at that point, it brings up the question, well, how much Ethereum has Vitalik sold, and how much Cardano has Charles Hoskinson sold, and it's so weird that they brought that in. But to your point, it's to put that pressure, and I'm sure it's a stressful moment for both of them. It seems though things are moving along with the folks at Ripple, and they're building around XRP, and obviously, to the point you mentioned, XRP hasn't been declared officially by law or whatever it may be, or the court, as a security, just the SEC's accusation at this point. And I recently interviewed Ripple's David Schwartz. What are your thoughts on what they're building with private ledgers for CBDCs, and of course positioning XRP as a bridge asset, and yada yada?
So the first thing I say, because I did watch your interview with David Schwartz, no man should be that smart. I mean, how do you get that many brain cells? Well, the way his brain works is different. My brain, in relative to his, my brain's like zeros and ones only. It's like yes, no, yes, no. That guy is extra smart. I'm not really too good with the technical part of it like he is. I mean, I'm just blown away by how smart the guy was. But even me, being a dummy, can kind of understand that what they're trying to do with XRP is super exciting. And I've tried to move money before between countries. I've lived abroad. It literally, when I was in Japan, it was almost impossible to move yen to the States. It was extremely difficult. It literally would have been almost easier just to pack a bag of cash in a suitcase and just carry it to the airport and bring it over that way. So nowadays that seems just ridiculous to me that that's the way it is still. And I have seen my clients that are, Mexican, and they're trying to get money back home, or my wife's Vietnamese. So there's a lot of, Vietnamese money going back and forth from the States to Vietnam. And I see the amount of money they have to spend to do that through Western Union or whatever it is. Yeah. And it really is ridiculous. So even me, not being a David Schwartz, can understand that. And that makes me excited about what they're trying to do.
For sure. Final question here and I'll circle back. Just do XRP holders have a case against the SEC, given the way Jay Clayton handled it? And even we had former SEC officials speaking out against that action. Do we as XRP holders have any case there in the value that we've lost?
So I know that Attorney Deaton has been talking about that. Now, my understanding is back in January, he filed. So when you're going to sue the government, there's something called sovereign immunity, right? And the law says that when you're going to sue the federal government, you have to give them 6-month advance notice. Don't ask me why that is, but you do. So I think he's probably sent them a 6-month letter at this point. And so my assumption would be that the lawsuit would be coming in June or July. Now, that being said, it's extremely difficult to win that case. It's just, the laws just make it so hard because, of course, the federal government makes the laws and they don't want to be getting sued all the time. So usually if the government is acting in its discretionary duties, they almost have blanket immunity. So if Hester and the other commissioners decided in good faith to sue Ripple back in December, and they just took a vote and they honestly thought that this was the right thing to do, they're pretty much protected. You almost have to have some kind of fraud on the part of the SEC in order to prevail in that case. So, you'd have to have, I don't want to throw out any wild accusations, but, someone accepting bags of cash from a competitor, that type of thing, could lead to a successful lawsuit. But absent something really bad like that, it's almost impossible to win.
I guess maybe we have to, do the old Boston Tea Party move or pitchforks and.
Well, I'm almost wondering at this point, it's hard to prove damages at this point because the price of XRP is doing pretty good.
Sure.
Probably a lawsuit if the price, now is higher than it was at the time of the lawsuit. What are your damages? It would be hard to kind of prove that. So. And
by the way, if there's any federal government officials listening, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to incite any type of treason or riots or anything against the government.
Everything I just said was just making it up for fun.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, very insightful. And once again, I enjoy your content so much. So everyone, make sure you tune into Jeremy's YouTube channel. Link will be in the description. And let's wrap it up with some rapid fire. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Well, my wife is Vietnamese, so it's got to be pho.
Nice. That's my wife's favorite as well. Favorite musician or band?
Van Halen. So I'm still in mourning from the passing of the great Eddie.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace. That one shocked me a bit. I'm a big Van Halen fan. I play a lot of guitar, 80s rock, and all that. Favorite movie?
That's a good one. This sounds bad, but it's probably the Avengers and that franchise. Here's the reason. Not because it's great cinema, because my brother is in the movie making business, so he would kill me for saying that. But let me just say, it's because it's something I kind of bonded with my daughter over, and we watch it together. We've seen them all, and we watch them together, and we have a great time. So that's the reason.
That's awesome. Well, that's a great reason. And finally, when you're not at your law firm, what are you doing for fun as far as a hobby?
So I'm a pretty boring person, but I do love soccer, and I'm a big Orlando City soccer fan. So I used to go to all the games. Last year I couldn't make it to a lot of them, but I've been a supporter since the very first season in the USL. So that's kind of my hobby nowadays. I don't have a lot of time for hobbies because the practice is very busy. I got the YouTube channel. I have my 2 daughters. You are talking to a lawyer who happens to be making notes with a unicorn pen. So, family, work, soccer. That's my order of business.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, pleasure chatting with you. Learned so much, and I always learn something new from your videos. So appreciate the great content you've been putting out, and hopefully I can have you back on as things progress with this lawsuit, so we can give updates to the folks and go from there.
That would be great. Keep up the good work. I love your channel. It's awesome.